All right, so hopefully that just starts going. So when I put this together, I called it a comment on comments because I really like the name and I just wanted to really express my opinion on source code comments. But as I really got into the thick of it, I kind of realized that it was more of a rant. And that was because when I do code reviews, I see a lot of comments in source code. And it usually hurts me a little bit because I view comments as something that we are failing to express in our code. And I feel like Uncle Bob puts it out there really well, where he says the proper use of comments is to compensate our failure to express ourselves in code. We're not able to actually try to get the point across that we're trying to, so we have to kind of add a what is this really about? And so here's an example where it's all we're trying to do is get the origin environment, and honestly, that's pretty self-descriptive, but we had to add a comment for it. Versus we could have just said, if origin environment exists, false, return false. It's more of an English statement. SonarQube has even said, if the source code needs comments, it either means that it does not respect coding standards, or it's just simply too complex. So again, if we're really in the thick of it and we think that, oh, this is too complicated, maybe we should add some comments. And so you can see here in this next example, this is actually a pretty large method that I found, and each little part of it is just separated by a comment, when really all of these individual parts could have been their own private methods. And then lastly, inaccurate comments are far worse than no comments at all. If you think about it, comments are kind of like a mental model where if we were to actually change our code, we actually need to change the comments as well, or they actually might diverge from what is actually being said or actually being done. I don't really have any examples for this. As I was going through the code base, these are like my two favorite ones. That one we kind of all know about. I really chuckled at that one. So if you wrote that one, I really like you. So one of the key takeaways I wanted for this presentation is that there are actually like two types of comments. There are like what comments and there are why comments. We generally want to stay away from the what's and focus on the why. So there's going to be some examples where we want to make sure, you see here, we're saying why we're doing this. We're not saying if the operating system is Windows and the service is interactive, change the directory. We're actually saying this line needs to be here because of that. Whereas something like a what, we can see in the code that it says is employee, is supplier, is customer, but then the comment's the exact same thing. So if we actually change the is external, we have to remove the comment as well, or those would diverge. It doesn't really provide a whole lot of value. And then you get into this case where we're just commenting out entire files, we're commenting out values and configuration, we're commenting out just dead code, things we don't need, but for some reason we're afraid to use source control and just keep it and just get it out of our code base. But again, like all things, they're not all bad. Comments, my prime example for this is like the public-facing APIs. Public-facing APIs, and then you also have some languages like Go, where you'll actually fail linting rules if you actually don't put a comment on the actual method header. And these are important because it actually tells you, the consumers of your application, how to actually use your software. So we want to keep it out of the method body itself. So before you add a comment, just ask yourself, like, is there demonstratable value when I add this? Is it going to give value to the next person who actually sees this code? The other thing is, your comment could be a code smell. If you really feel like you need to add your comment, kind of take a step back, breathe, think, do I really need to do this? And if I do, maybe there's a way I can change it. So for example, here we have to say true so that the request is logged, but because we don't know what true is. But really we could have just said process request with logging, got rid of the true, and just made a new method that just kind of calls the old method and then just does a logger request. So if you're really interested in this comments and code craftsmanship and what have you, I really recommend Clean Code. It's probably one of my favorite books. I do have a copy of it. Really anything that Robert C. Martin does is fantastic on this subject. I went through that one a bit too fast. So in the end, I really hope that my code reviews kind of turn into this, where it's like more I kind of open the file, I skim through it, and as I go through it, like, oh, hey, there's not like a single comment, and I'm not the only one involved in this. So again, before you think about adding one, just don't. That's all I had. probably leave that on. I don't know if there's any we have opinions, questions, comments on this whole rant. Yeah, comments on it's just like go back slow. Oh, that's gonna be a tough one.
Or rewind.
I just won't even start it. Oh, which one?
One of the last ones.
One of the last ones?
Yeah.
The Go one?
17, I think.
Even further? Oh, 17, this guy. This guy?
Yeah, I just want to say one thing I do sometimes.
Yeah.
Especially with flags like that, it's not obvious what you're doing, but you
Right.
can put named parameters. So you could, whatever that parameter name is, you could do logging : true.
Yeah, that is an option. Just it's one. My only dislike for those is that I mean you know like it's not something that's enforced. So it's like if you make the conscious effort to do it, it's fixed. But not everyone is going to utilize that. Whereas like this approach kind of just forces you into that model. But yeah, I agree. I mean, named comments or named parameters are a thing that you can also use to solve this.
We can enforce it.
I just want to say that not everybody that reads our code are actually programmers. There are people in GSS looking at it and stuff. So it does help to have comments in there that provide clarity for them. I mean, there's an argument to be made, I guess, that they shouldn't be reading our code, but.
Right. Well, and again, I would think, I mean, yeah, that one, I definitely wouldn't want to write comments for like GSS and non-technical members. And that's why, I mean, I definitely want to go down that route. But that's why I also feel there is value in like the whole why thing. I mean, it's like, if you want to, if you feel like it's there for a reason, then you can go ahead and add it. Because I mean, not even as the most technical person is going to be like, yeah, why is that there? And you have to go figure out who put it in there and then you have to go bug them versus just kind of shoving it in there.
I think my problem is maybe like the last slide that just don't do it, sets the wrong impression. Like I really think we should have comments, but I agree with everything else that they should be, you know, why comments and you know, as somebody that, you know, all I do is bug fixing, like those comments have helped me out tremendously.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, I mean, to your point, I mean, to really sum it all up, I mean, what I'm really just trying to avoid is, I mean, it's just kind of like this approach. Like this just bugs the hell out of me. Where I mean, it's the exact same. It's just kind of like, I mean, you can tell like what that is doing. You can tell what that is doing. And I feel like it just, some people just kind of get into this mode of like, oh, this like this that's a lot of black. I need to add some green to it or something like that. Like it just looks wrong to them.
Yeah, and I agree with that 100%. I just don't want anybody walking out of this room like and start just haphazardly deleting comments that might be necessary.
Oh yeah, and I definitely was gonna add on to this like if why is acceptable, like don't necessarily like, you know, like, oh, you know, we are doing this so that we can split the the ampersand of the question mark. I mean, you could technically phrase it as a why, but I mean, yeah, if you feel like it's valuable, add it. Just make sure that there is value for when you're actually adding it.
So what if I want to explain like why my sixth nested if statement is there?
Yeah, that's the code smell part. Again, if you feel like you need to describe it, you probably need to go back and do it again.
Any other questions for John?